Recorded Books and RB Digital present The Macedonian by Nicholas Guild. Narrated by Pete Bradbury. Chapter 1. The first storm of winter began just after dark. It had been unseasonably warm all day, as if summer had changed its mind and decided to linger in Macedon forever. But then, when the last smoldering red light of sunset guttered out and died, the wind blowing in from the sea grew suddenly cold. Soon damp clumps of snow were falling in noiseless, erratic fury into the dirt streets of Pella. People stood in their doorways and watched in awe, yet no one spoke of omens. The gods were capricious this far north, and such things had been known to happen before. Within an hour, the courtyard of King Amyntas's palace was buried to a depth of nearly 3 fingers. By midnight, the world was hushed and white and still. The busy life of men seemed to have perished with the sun. Yet this was an illusion, for the palace itself was far from quiet. In the women's quarters, Eurydice, the king's principal wife, choked on her screams as she labored to give life to a 4th child, and in the great hall the king and his companions drank unmixed wine and shook the air with their ferocious mirth. Perhaps 100 of the land's great nobles, the outlines of their hard faces sharpened by the dancing torchlight, laughed and shouted and beat their hands against the trestle tables that appeared arranged in no particular pattern, and yet reflected a strict order of precedence. In battle, these men surrounded the king's person, guarding his life with their own, and indeed their revels seemed a kind of battle, the sound of which hammered at the very walls. A man appeared among the banqueters, not a grand figure like the others, yet not a servant. He looked about him as one might viewing the scene of some catastrophe. His tunic and even his short white beard were flecked with blood. He was Nicomachus, the king's physician and close friend. As he approached Amyntas's couch and leaned down to speak to him, the hall fell into an uneasy silence. "My lord." The king, the flesh around his eyes seamed and cracked like an ancient leather mask, blinked uncomprehendingly, and then threw an arm over the physician's shoulder to draw him closer. It was a gesture full of easy, wine-soaked familiarity. "What is it, Nicomachus? Come to tell me that old men should know when to find their beds?" He started to laugh, but stopped to draw the flat of his hand over the physician's beard and stare at the blood smeared across his palm. "So, it was bad, was it? Is she dead?" "She lives, my lord, as does the child."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?